You're listening to America's Diesel Podcast.
Did you see that excursion on Craigslist for like $65,000?
Is it the 6.7 one?
No, the 7.3 with like 22,000 miles.
Jesus.
In fact, Corey, if you want to pull something up, you can pull that one up. It does look brand new. It's on Spokane Craigslist. Yeah. It's maroon. It has got the most badass seats in it. Like the coolest color. Like, I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
I probably have.
I saw the price and I was like, you fucking guys.
I've been rolling through way too much stuff on Facebook Marketplace right now. We'll probably talk about that in the second episode we filmed today.
I thought we already started.
We are starting.
Are we?
That was the start.
That was the start?
Yeah.
It was the one that was 64K?
Yeah. You'll see it. It's like maroon. It looks super clean. I just went through a couple pictures. $64,000. Yeah, right here.
Good grief. Yeah, 2002. I mean, it looks leveled.
88,000 miles. Sorry.
It's leveled. That's cool. It's got like
Wait till you see the interior.
got updated mirrors on there. Nice wheels and tires. I mean, it is a beautiful.
Dude, wait. Oh, go to those seats. Oh, you went right back. Yeah.
Oh, it's got the Eddie Bauer seats.
Dude, that thing is nice.
Yeah.
$64,000 nice? I don't think so.
I mean, it's done very well.
I know, but it doesn't.
No, that's what's killing it right there. It does not have climate control. That would kill it for me. If I'm going to spend $64,000.
New
on
heated
Excursion.
two-tone leather, new towing mirrors, LED taillights, immaculate in and out. Okay, I understand all that. 88,000 miles, definitely low.
Mm-hmm.
64,000 freaking dollars for that is still, I think, absolutely absurd. Like,
I mean,
but they're not even to the point where it's like, you could buy one. Like, let's say, what'd you pay for yours? 14?
oh, no, after taxes, I was like 11.75 or something like that.
Imagine if you put 30 grand into that truck.
Oh yeah,
It would look just like that.
pretty darn close. I can tell you that right now.
And you could rebuild the engine that would have 0 miles on it, but it
Yeah.
would still be ticked on there. But like, I think there's some of these places, they find these things and they just think they're absolute gold. I don't think they're going to get 64,000 for that.
No, they'll get like 50.
Dude, I think that's still outrageous, man. For a freaking, what is it now? 21-year-old truck.
Yeah.
Still a 7.3. Still has 84 horsepower to the rear wheels.
86. Okay.
I mean, it's clean. Don't get me wrong.
I think if it was a limited or an Eddie Bauer edition, they would probably definitely be able to get more. But because it does not have the climate control, it just has the normal HVAC in it.
I think to ask that kind of money, you have to be at least under 30,000 miles.
Yeah. I don't know. Excursion people are different.
They are.
That's fair.
This week's podcast episode is brought to you by Fuel Bomb Diesel Additive, an additive designed for diesel enthusiasts, made by diesel enthusiasts. Ben, take it away.
Hell yeah, dude. So this is our in-house Fuel Bomb fuel additive for your diesel truck. Our biggest thing here is making sure that you can pretty much always have diesel additive on you all the time. You've got a lot of other additives out on the market they have, anti-gel in there all the time. They have cetane in there all the time. They end up being big and bulky bottles. Our standard everyday diesel fuel additive is 1 ounce per 32 gallons, and that's its main job is to make sure that your fuel system stays lubricated and prevents the formation of algae. And it should also help you in colder climates too.
Should definitely help you in colder climates. Along with cleaning your fuel system and maintaining it, it'll also help you bump that cetane number up for a more efficient burn of your diesel fuel. And if cetane is just what you're after, there's the Fuel Bomb Hellfire, which is our straight 8+ cetane enhancer.
Yeah, and you guys asked, and we brought them back. We did go away from the bottles that didn't have the measuring little parts in there. We brought them back for you, so now you can measure out your 1 ounce per 32 gallons for the F-Bomb or 4 ounces per 32 gallons for the Hellfire.
Both these additives are available on our website, dieselpowerproducts.com. Now let's get back to that episode.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. This is Ben Tyler and Corey. He's that third luscious voice you hear from America's Diesel Podcast, coming from Spokane, Washington. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say, Corey?
Yeah.
Corey's making that face like he wants to say something.
I wasn't going to say anything and just leave awkward silence while you waited for me to say something.
Mission accomplished. You can find us on Google Play, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere listen to podcasts. You can find us by searching America's Diesel Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook. We have our own Facebook group. It's called America's Diesel Podcast - the group. There are 3 questions you must answer to get in. There are many right answers and many wrong answers. Answer accordingly. Forewarning, this is a spicy group. Spicy. Red hot chili pepper spicy. You can also check us out on Instagram. We do go live on Instagram every Wednesday right around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Come up here with the boys, talk a little bit of shit, and have ourselves a good old time. Tyler reviews.
Oh yeah, let's keep those reviews coming in. We finally hit 500.
Nice.
It's like a mile. That's like a milestone.
Yeah.
500. Well,
500.
499 5-star and 1 star from some douche that doesn't like that we ask people to give us 5 stars.
What else are we gonna ask?
I mean, anyways, screenshot your review on any of the platforms that Ben mentioned earlier. Screenshot it again. Screenshot it twice. One for your records, and then one to send to us, so you can get a sticker. As long as you send it with an address and a picture of your truck. That was choppy. I feel like I haven't done this for a while.
It's okay. We're gonna get through it. Just keep breathing. Keep going.
I'm done now.
It's been worse.
It's
been worse.
But it's been so much better.
I know. Some of our intros are like the biggest train wrecks known to man, but they are so good.
Some of yeah.
So good. If you need parts for your diesel pickup, make sure and check out dieselpowerproducts.com. We do have stuff to buy. If you see that Quick logo, it's guaranteed in stock, ready to rock. If you have any questions on that stuff, make sure and give our sales technicians a call. They are live on the phones, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday. You can also reach us through email, the chat feature on the website, Instagram, social medias, whatever. And if you are a podcast listener, which you are, you're listening to this, make sure and let them know if you're talking to someone you are a podcast listener. Receive absolutely nothing monetarily, but special attention from the 3 of us here should something happen with your order. And I'll be honest, folks, that really does help out, except for you, Honey Badger. Again, I'm going to ride this till every order that comes through for you, I'm putting on a 2-day delay. Don't care.
Oh, my globe.
Yeah, real talk. Let them know that you are a podcast listener. We tally those up at the end of the month. Lets the guys upstairs know that we're down here having fun, drinking beer, and equating to some... Very nice. According to some sales, because at the end of the day, money makes the world go round. Also, special shout out to literally right now, Scott Beaver just Instagram messaged me.
Oh yeah, my freaking gosh.
I've been on the hunt for, this is a good topic too, because I have an excursion. This is an excursion episode, but he found me some tan leather heated seats.
Oh, right on.
They obviously need to be recovered, but so do mine. I've been looking for the factory heated seats so I can put them in mine. He found them in a junkyard near him, $150 for both.
Wow.
So thank you, Scott.
You buying them?
Yeah. I literally just texted him. Yes! Exclamation point. Yeah. Scott, thank you, sir. I will get you some cash and figure out how much shipping is, because I if I recall correctly, I believe you are down in Oregon. So we'll get those fired up this way. And yeah. And that is part of what happens in our Facebook group. We have this huge group of people that I feel like we all love to hate each other. There's a lot of good information in that group. Tyler has no idea.
I just thought of something.
Yeah.
So what if? No, maybe not. I was gonna fill in the blank ones on my Facebook book.
Uh-huh.
But what if we sent it to our listeners that post those memes
and have them draw themselves?
And then or I don't know. Just to get it around the community.
Yeah.
I'll just fill it in.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Tyler does not have a Facebook. Thus,
yes, I do have a Facebook book.
Thus, we had some people in our group make a page for him. It's called We Wanted to Tag Tyler, but he is a glizzy guzzler and doesn't have a Facebook. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. I can't read it from here. And then they were nice enough to screenshot a bunch of the posts, send them to Shutterfly. They put them in a book and then sent it to Tyler. So Tyler's got a Facebook book.
Yeah, very nice binding.
Very nice binding. However, some of the things were too spicy, so Shutterfly would not print them. They're just redacted black boxes on there, which is so good. It makes it
so better. I'm gonna fill them in. I'm waiting on the paperback copy. Yeah. We could maybe sell them. I don't know.
It's a bestseller. So let's get into this episode. So we had an email, which I should have printed and brought with me, but we had a listener that wanted to know more about buying an Excursion. And there are, from my own experiences, there are a lot of things that go into an Excursion. And it's very easy to get overcharged, in my opinion. And Tyler's pretty much just going to fall asleep now because it is yet another episode about Excursion and 7.3 shit.
All right, so this was from
Oh, thanks, Corey.
Taylor.
Taylor, what up, dog?
And it says, I'm a new dad, so I'm looking into the ultimate family vehicle,
Congratulations and good choice.
which we all know is the Excursion. What I want to know is, what is the best Excursion to pick? 7.3 versus 6.0, or buy a gasser and swap in a common rail? Does the 5R110 make that much of a difference for daily driving and long hauls? Or get a 7.3 and add Gear Vendor's OD unit? Or is it even necessary?
You guys in your overdrive.
I'd
Just
love
can't go down the highway.
I'd love to hear a deep dive on all things Excursion, not just 7.3 specific Excursion. Maybe include things about what to look for when looking at an Excursion for sale, common issues, what to nitpick, and what's no big deal. Hope you take this into consideration. Love the podcast, even if Tyler is a glizzy guzzler.
I'm so glad we read this.
Fucking dick.
You said leave out this part?
No.
Oh.
Well, I'm going to start it off.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with what he mentioned, Cummins swap.
Uh-huh.
Okay. If you are going to do that, you need to be fully aware of the cost of everything that is involved, because people, I think that it's like, you just buy a kit and just put it in and it just goes. It's not like that.
No.
If you had a truck, a wrecked truck or something that you were able to get at a really good deal, or a complete, when I say complete, I mean complete engine, especially common rail, ECM, wiring harness, the whole, everything. Like, that is the only time that I would consider doing a swap. Because, I mean, yes, you could do a 12 valve, you can do other engines, but to me, the ultimate engine in an Excursion would be a common rail.
Mm-hmm.
So first things first is you need to parse out all the costs of all these parts. The engine is obviously going to be one of the more expensive things, especially if you're buying a higher mileage engine or an engine that had a problem. You got to factor in the cost of rebuilding that engine. And then you got to factor in the cost of the adapter plates. The adapter plates are somewhere around, we looked at them like $700 to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have an ECM, that's a whole other cost that's involved. There's, a company, D-Stroke, that's out there that sells a lot of conversion parts that you would use. But just get the full idea of the cost before you start it, because if you're trying to build a family vehicle, you obviously don't want a project family vehicle.
No. That means you want to get it done right, which means whatever cost you think it's going to be in your head, double it.
Yeah. I think doing
time.
A Cummins swap, again, unless you have like an engine laying around already, you have parts laying around or a wrecked truck or something, I don't think that would be a good option for a family vehicle.
I agree.
Especially if you're going to, not saying you can't do the work, but just if you are going to do the work, it's going to take you probably longer than you anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And to pay someone to do it, you're going to be paying out the ass. It's going to be super expensive.
Yeah. Especially, so keying off of that is I assume that you probably want to get something a little bit nicer. Okay. I'm not saying that you're trying to find some like super, cherry limited Excursion, but usually the folks that end up swapping these things are because they find like maybe a really nice V10.
Yeah.
And they want to swap it in, which that means you're paying premium for a V10. Or they find maybe like a really, really high mileage 6.0 or 7.3 where the motor's a little bit already tired, which may still very well be a nice trim package, but now you're dealing with the chassis. It's got like 300,000 miles on it.
Right.
And then you spend another $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 getting a 5.9 common rail swap down in there to a top tier level, but you're still driving around a 300,000 mile truck.
Right.
So that's always stuff to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But let's start off with just the variations of Excursions. We'll talk about that real quick. So Excursions, they ran, for the most part, from 2000 to 2005. Okay. The biggest mistake that people make is they assume the 05s have coils in the front. Since the pickups had coils in the front in 05, they do not. Even a 2005 Excursion will have the exact same suspension as the 99 to 04 trucks. They're still going to be leaf sprung. That's nothing changes there.
I think that is the only truck that is still leaf sprung in 2005.
In the front? Oh,
In the
100%.
front.
It is the only one.
There's
I mean,
no other.
until you start getting the medium duty stuff.
Yeah, there's no other leaf sprung still. Could you imagine if they did do a coil spring front end in one of those though? Like that would have been dope.
I thought they did.
I thought they did too.
When I remember the conversation when Brian came over. He's like, "You're a Power Stroke guy. You ever think about getting an Excursion?" I was like, kind of my uncle has one. I kind of thought about it. Maybe, I don't know. I still just want a truck that goes, "You should get Excursion." So I started thinking about it. And I was still relatively fresh here.
Yeah.
And he was totally goading me into it. And maybe he made me an Excursion guy, maybe he didn't. But I kind of feel like I was always destined to be that. Yeah. But and I was thinking to myself, like, wow.
When I look at you, you just bleed Excursion. Like I don't know why. Like it just comes out of your pores.
It must.
Just big SUV.
Yeah, I see Honda Element.
That's a conversation for another day.
If his hat was backwards, Honda Element.
Or maybe slightly askew. Honda Element. 2 inches rotation of the hat.
Yeah.
Excursion to Element.
Yeah.
And back again.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, you don't look like a truck guy.
I'll fucking fight you.
Minivan. Anything with a large cab.
Large cab.
Yeah.
Mega cab. Like a mega sized cab. Okay. Sorry. Too big. Too big. Yeah.
If you bought a mega cab, those sleeves would probably come off of your
instantly.
It would just fall off. It'd be like, whoa, Ben, what happened to you?
Like, have you been doing curls?
Yeah. You start stuffing your pant leg in your boot.
Yeah.
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 Put about 500 hats on my dashboard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Throw a bit of Copenhagen in the lip.
Yeah. Just like, damn, Ben, didn't know you chewed.
I have to. It's part of the. It's my life now.
One of those big wallets.
Yeah.
Sticking.
Tall wallet.
Yeah.
The
checkbook. With a checkbook.
With a checkbook. Yeah. With a pen. Okay. Sorry. We're getting off track here. So. Suspension wise, yes, they're leaf sprung in the front. Excursions do not ride really well. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there. You can make them ride good for what they are, but it is still a leaf sprung truck in the front. Rides as such. Okay. Yeah. So 99 to 05, those are your Excursions. The engines that are going to be in there, you've got a 5.4. That's your Triton V8. You got
beautiful engine. Mechanical wonder.
3 valves, cam phasers. Fuck.
Comes with a factory rod knock.
Yeah, really does. We'll talk about engines in a second here. But yeah, so
V10.
5.4, the 6.8 liter V10, a 6.0 liter Power Stroke, or a 7.3 liter Power Stroke.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 5.4s were pretty much reserved for any of the pretty much lower trim levels.
Yeah.
Maybe a mid-tier. Unless someone custom ordered one, I rarely ever see a 5.4 that has leather.
Yeah, most of them are V10s at least.
Yeah, at least. 5.4s are commonly found in the two-wheel drive versions. Most Excursions are not two-wheel drive. And I'll be honest, Excursions are heavy, and a 5.4, like, it'll move. You ain't towing shit, okay? And you're not going to get good fuel mileage out of it. Like, if this was literally a two-wheel drive,
which is weird because it only has like 6 less horsepower than the 7.3. Who'd have thunk it?
6 less horsepower, or like 400 less foot-pounds of torque.
And then the V10, they're like, wow, how can we make the engine bigger and make less power?
Yeah.
And have it sound like a fucking
weird, just weird
blow dryer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the hell they sound like.
So I would almost say no to the 5.4 period. The only way I would say consider it is if you are literally looking to get a two-wheel drive,
if you're looking to wreck it.
Basically, like a mom mobile in town.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. You're not going to tow anything. It's not going to do well on the highway. It's basically just for scooting around. It's going to suck. Plus, 5.4s are notorious for cam phaser issues. I had a 5.4 and a 99 F-150. Ended up, by the time it was done, it had like 380,000 miles on it or something like that. Went through pretty much everybody in our family, and by the time we were done, that fucker was knocking, and we were running 2050 in it. Okay. Started up every time though, and only spit out 5 spark plugs. So that's another thing here. Both of these gas engines have aluminum heads, and they are known, it's a Ford thing, they spit out spark plugs. They make helicoil kits. You're just gonna have to carry one with you. It's the way it goes. Okay. A Ranger spit them out. Any of those era, they just have aluminum heads. They spit out spark plugs. So let's talk about a V10. The V10 it makes decent enough power. You can tow with it. They don't get great mileage.
No.
But you can find high trim level V10s.
Oh yeah.
And they're fairly fun to drive. I mean, you punch it, it's gonna fucking move.
Yeah, like remember my dad's V10
yeah,
F250?
they get down.
It got down. It just doesn't sound like a truck.
Please, for the love of God, do not put any louder exhaust on it. You will not like the way it sounds. You might think that,
and it's not the same V10 that's in a Viper.
No, it's not. Okay. Not even close. And you might think like, oh, yeah, I just want to uncork it a little bit, hear what it sounds like. It does not sound good. It doesn't sound good. Just don't. Okay.
That's like one of the only trucks that actually sounds worse when you put exhaust on it.
Like if you're worried about it free flowing, I would literally put like the biggest like Flowmaster Magna flow, like 100 series, whatever the hell it is, or just not touch it, something like that. But I mean, they do relatively well. You routinely see V10s that get into the 250,000 mile range. Maintenance is key on all of these, obviously, but you can find a nice trimmed out V10, and on average, they're going to cost. If you find the same trimmed out 7.3s, it's going to cost like 10 grand less.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get V10s for a lot lower cost. Mm-hmm. So factor that in. If you do plan on towing with it, or you just have to have a diesel, now we're talking about 7.3 or 6.0s. I should have probably asked this before we came on the show here, but like, I don't know if this is your first diesel or not. I'm going to assume it is, just kind of for everybody out there. If it's between a 6.0 and a 7.3 for your first diesel, please just choose the 7.3. Okay.
Unless
there's a couple of unlesses.
Yes.
Okay. Unless, let's say you have a brother who knows 6.0s in and out. You have
or there's a listing for one that it's got head studs. Maybe it's got a bulletproof remote oil cooler. It's got the things that it needed to get it to the point where it's more reliable. Mm-hmm. Especially head studs, oil cooler stuff. That's the only time. And usually those 6.0 guys know what they have and will list it as such. Yeah. Saying, hey, that's where the common term of where it's been bulletproofed. Mm-hmm. And that poses another question. If you're seeing a listing for one that says bulletproofed, but it has no description on what has actually been done, if they didn't do head studs, that's a first red flag. They didn't do everything. Mm-hmm. That they went the cheap route. They probably put Ford factory head gaskets on there, and the Ford factory head gasket kit comes with new bolts, and they probably use just the bolts. Okay, got to have the head studs. Get a list of things that were quote unquote bulletproofed on that 6.0. Mm-hmm. Just cover all your bases. Just make sure all that stuff is done, because I mean that's ultimately those are the things that caused the 6.0 to have the reputation that it had. When you fix them, they run like a freaking raped ape, dude. Like they get great mileage. They get good mileage. They sound good. They pull like a motherfucker. They are quick. You can build power with them. I mean, they're smoother than a 7.3. Mm-hmm. As long as all that stuff's been done. If you're looking at one that's like just a bone stock 6.0, I would automatically add in the cost of doing some of these other aftermarket items to the cost of that vehicle, because you're going to end up doing it. Yeah.
And for me, so like I'm shopping for another truck right now, and 6.0s are on my map, 7.3s are on my map, even some second gens are even on my map, and third gens. I know I'm getting real wild with what I'm willing to accept nowadays. But for me, I just don't want a 6.0 that has over 200,000 miles on it. I don't care if it's been bulletproofed. I'm not that comfortable with it yet.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to get into a 6.0 that was bone stock and not bulletproofed, but had 120 on it.
Yeah.
That had maintenance records or something like that.
Right.
So you have to be a lot more selective with a 6.0 in my opinion, than you do with a 7.3. And you also need to know that if you are getting into a 6.0, just maintenance is key. You cannot neglect a 6.0.
And you're probably going to find more 6.0s than 7.3s for sale.
Depending on your price range. But I mean, I will say that
I feel like I have seen a lot of 7.3 excursions lately, but in the past they've always been.
Well, I mean, they made them for a longer time that the excursion was alive,
right?
So that being said, just make sure that you are doing your homework with the 6.0 before you get into it. 7.3s. And also, when you start getting into the diesel excursions, you are going to find that the price basically stays the same. So let's say you find like a really nice trimmed out V10 that has 100,000 miles on it. That is basically going to cost the same as a mid-tier trimmed out 7.3 or 6.0 with like 250 on it.
Yeah.
So you're paying that you're going to pay a premium for a diesel, especially if it's got basically anything. If it's a good trimmed out. What I mean by trimmed out is like leather, a limited, Eddie Bauer, XLT, something like that.
Yeah.
For the most part, I will say as far as trim levels go, excursions tended to be fairly nice. Like it's very rare that I come across a cloth excursion.
Yeah.
I'd say it's like one in
with the diesel.
Yes. Yeah, it's not very often to come across a cloth one. But as far as leather goes, you can get leather in an XLT. The limiteds have leather. The Eddie Bauers had leather. And as you go up and up and up there, they have nicer packages on the inside, like factory DVD players, climate control, seat warmers, all that kind of good stuff. So yes, the 7.3 is my preferred one. I would go with that one if I were you. Personally, yes, I know they don't make a ton of power, but they work well in an excursion, man. It's a big old hunk of shit with a big ass fucking iron engine in it.
As far as Ford platforms go, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, a 7.3 is just gonna last. I mean, there's not a lot to go bad.
It's true
with the actual in the base part of the main components of the engine itself. Mm. Like,
you're gonna want to buy some
injectors, fuck ton of O-rings, buy stock and O-rings. But there's not a lot. I mean, you're gonna have your regular maintenance items just like any other vehicle. Mm-hmm. But a 7.3 would be the only. Again, it's got. There's not enough power to hurt itself. Like, I mean, in stock form. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously, listen to the podcast, but I'm a 7.3 guy. I'll tell you right now, those things are just. They're ass anchors in stock form.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some other factors here. If you're buying an excursion, you're basically buying around a 20-year-old vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay. There's something to consider here. You're not going to be able to get a loan for this thing. Most people are not going to give you an auto loan for a 20-year-old vehicle, period. Yeah. Unless you have collateral, unless you're using a personal loan. But you're not going to call someone and then say, oh, but it's a really low mileage. They're not going to care. They're like, this is a 25-year-old vehicle. It's got 200,000 miles on it. And you want to get a loan for $18,000?
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
Yeah. We'll give you a personal loan for like $6,000.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. You're more than likely
18% interest.
Yeah. You're more than likely going to have to pay cash for it. Or figure that, get a loan on your own and figure it out. That being said, again, this is a 20-year-old vehicle.
Yeah.
20-year-old vehicles have 20-year-old problems.
Yeah.
You may find that oh no, I need a new, I got to do bearings in the rear end. My front hubs are not unlocking. I've got windshield washer fluid leaking all over the place.
That's that February surprise, baby.
Yeah, February surprise. You've got, my up pipes are leaking. You're going to find a lot of things that leak on these things. Yep. You got to be okay that this 20-year-old vehicle is it's going to nickel and dime you a little bit, especially that first year you have it.
Oh yeah.
You're going to find all these kinds of things.
You're going to fix one thing and then another thing's going to happen. And then you're going to fix that and another thing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, this isn't even correlated. These aren't even,
and why?
Yeah. It just happens.
Literally happened to me this weekend.
Yes.
So these things, they will nickel and dime you. They're old. That's just the way it is. If you're thinking, oh, I found one that has like 80,000 miles on it, like we were just talking about, get ready to pay through the ass for it.
Yeah.
Which
I still think is outrageous for that truck.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anybody's going to pay $66,000 when they can just go buy like a new Power Stroke.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of money that are really dumb. So
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Some other things here. So Excursions from the factory only came with one code of leaf spring in the front. Whether it was a 5.4, a 6.0, 7.3, 6.8, they all came with one code of leaf spring, which means if you have a diesel in the front, that same leaf spring is supposed to support a 5.4.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but a 7.3 weighs a hell of a lot more than a 5.4.
Yeah.
So that's why when you see Excursions, especially with diesels, and they seem to sit so nose down, and they also ride like extra ass because they're basically on the bump stops. Every time you go over a bump, that
your suspension is like 3 inches of rubber.
Exactly. And that's why they feel so rough on the road. They did that not only because Ford, for some reason, is really good about, moving forward and innovating with parts and like having half years. But then in their infinite wisdom, they decided to have the weakest fucking leaf spring on the front. Anyways, you can literally put an F-250 leaf spring on the front and it'll level the truck out and it'll ride a hell of a lot better. That's what I did on mine. But keep that in mind if you're trying to put it in your garage. It is barely going to fit, especially with certain size tires on there. Rust is an issue on these Excursions, especially on the rockers.
Yeah. Big cab,
rust, water collects.
Yeah.
They pretty much all came factory. In fact, they all, actually not pretty much. They all came factory. I don't want to say all, but I will say every single Excursion that I have looked at or seen pictures of, they all have a roof rack, which means they have rails on there.
Yeah.
That tends to collect water. There tends to be rust that happens there. Also under the frame, make sure you're checking out there. Windshields on that era of Super Duties tended to leak, especially because we're talking about trucks that are 20 years old. If it wasn't well taken care of, chances are you're going to be doing a new windshield on there. You pretty much have to get a new windshield if you want to get it resealed. What else here? Fun fact, Excursions use their own taillights. You cannot put Power Stroke or just normal F-250, 350 taillights on there. You can, however, do standard F-250, 350 headlights or front clip, whatever you want to do there. Interior trim levels, like we talked about before, you have your XLT, which can come with leather. More than likely does not have seat warmers, though, and they did not have climate control. If you don't follow me when I say climate control and HVAC control, what I'm talking about is, and a lot of you that maybe haven't had older trucks don't understand this, but being able to like set an actual temperature and it does the rest. Yeah. That's climate control. Normal HVAC is fan knob, temperature knob, direction knob. That's it. If it gets too hot, you turn it down. If it's too cold, you turn it up. There's no like, I'm going to turn a little bit this, monitor it.
Like the thermostat in your house. You set a temperature and it maintains that temperature. That's what he's talking about.
Exactly. Next, some of them may or may not have fog lights. Those are controlled through the headlight switch. And some of them may or may not have auto headlights. It could be any of those. What else here? Second row. Heated or cooled seats was not an option in the second row. It's too early in time for that. Yeah. Sorry. But they did offer a bench or captain's chairs. I'll leave it up to you, but 99% of the time there's going to be a bench in there. Captain's chairs are kind of cool. Like my Suburban had captain's chairs with the car seats and whatnot. It makes it really easy to get to the back seat. Yeah. But also if you have two kids, one each car seat, that becomes a valley of despair because anytime they drop anything, it's on the floor.
Yeah. At
least if they're a little bit bigger and they drop it, they can pick it up off the seat. But now it's on the floor. So take that for what it will. What else?
Buy a mega cab.
Yeah. They, all Excursions or all Super Duties from 99 to 04 calipers tend to drag, and it's not the caliper's fault. It's the fact that the brake lines deteriorate very early. So if you find that, you will have calipers drag. All of mine did. Replace the brake lines and put stainless steel ones on there and potentially clean and lube the calipers or just replace them. Again, nickel and diming you. This vehicle is going to nickel and dime you. What else? With with having kids in there, I don't know how tall you are or your wife is, but the Excursion, even in stock form, is not short. My wife is like 5'4", 5'5", and she can stand on the step and put kids in just fine. But I can tell it's a little bit, just a touch too tall for her. Like once the kid's a little bit bigger, she'll be fine. But like if you actually have to set the baby in there in the car seat or something like that, it gets a little bit rough. Also, as far as like how soon you want your kids to be able to climb in and out of the vehicle by themselves, my son was able to climb in and out of my wife's Escape probably like a year and a half before he could climb into the Excursion. That's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah, just it's gonna nickel and dime you, man. Just get ready for it.
I would also say, don't be afraid to look out of state, for one.
Yeah, don't exactly that. But also think about the state you're buying it from. If it's like a really good deal in Minnesota and it's got a great paint job and there's no pictures of the undercarriage, fucker's rusted, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And bodywork on Excursions is not cheap because A, they don't make them anymore, and B, they only made them for a short amount of time, and they don't interchange with anything else from basically the back door back.
Yeah.
That huge quarter panel, something goes wrong there, fucking have fun, my friend.
Yeah.
The glass in the back, have fun. One of those breaks, I can tell you from experience, mine broke. Took me 6 weeks to get a new piece of glass in there. So shit happens. You just got to deal with it. Some of them may or may not have remote entry, so check for a key fob. Yeah, I mean, with buying Excursion, it's just gotta be careful, dude. But in my opinion, yeah, get a 7.3. If you feel comfortable with a 6.0, get a 6.0. If you're not towing with it and you're okay with getting a V10, do it.
Pussy.
Bitch. Stop listening to the podcast now.
Yeah. That V10 should never be an option. All right. Those need to die a quick and painless death.
They can stay in motorhomes. They can stay in all those damn.
Sure.
Fine. I don't want them anywhere else though.
Get them out of there.
Get them out of there. What was the other one? Oh, as far as between a no, what was the other question? He was wondering about the
if you should buy a Cummins and
do not buy an Excursion with the intent of swapping a 5.9 comma rail on, okay? And I want to
unless you have knowledge, parts,
yes,
all this shit available, and you know you're going to get it done. Because if not, it's going to be a project that's going to drag on, and it's going to start pulling money out of your pocket you didn't know you needed, and then you're going to maybe get it done, and then you're going to realize something doesn't work right, or just unless you are fully aware of the full and listen, we sell parts for these trucks. I can't tell you the whole process of what it takes to make all the freaking gauges work and all that shit. Like that's why a lot of people will go with a 12 valve because they could it's just a lot less electronics to deal with to try to make work. But again, then when you pop the hood, it's like, okay, you got this older generation, which is not a bad thing. I don't want to say like it's a bad thing because there's been plenty of like really clean swaps of, an Excursion with a 12 valve. But if I were to do it, I would only do a common rail and something like that, especially a family vehicle.
And I'll tell you right now, if this is your first kid, you're about to learn very, very quickly that your time is going to become very, very decreased for the amount that you have to put into your family vehicle. And you can have the coolest wife in the world. Okay. I don't care. Yeah. Like I'm just telling you from, I am definitely not a data expert. Got 5 years on one and a year and a half on the other one, but I can tell you right now, it's going to get your tinkering time is going to get cut down basically to like a quarter of what it was before. You have to plan everything out, and you'll be amazed how much you can get done in 15 minutes from when you park in the driveway before someone comes in the garage and says, "What are you doing?" Yeah. You will be absolutely astonished what you can mash out in that 15 minutes. You'll have to, because again, this thing is going to nickel and dime you.
Yeah. So reading over the email, I don't think a gasser was ever like in his equation.
Just using that as a platform for a Cummins
He was talking about
conversion.
using that as a platform for a Cummins swap.
Regardless. I mean, you got even more problems there because you got a dash that's got the wrong tack.
That's not
as
that
far-
big of a deal. You can change
Well.
the tach. You can change the gauge cluster. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. All right.
Do I want to? No, I'm not even a little bit. So let's talk
Just-
about what you can do to say your 7.3 or 6.0 excursion to kind of like make it cool, make it your own.
Come and swap it.
Coil swap, not Cummins. Coil swap.
Yes,
coil
coil
swap
swap.
the front. Basically, the anything from 05 and up will pretty much get the job done. But ideally, you want a 05 to 10, and even more specifically in there, 05 to 07. I'll tell you right now, I have not done it myself. I've done extensive research though on this because that is a goal of mine for my excursion. And from everyone that I've talked to that has done it, all the reading I've done on it is if you do find axles from an 05 to an 07, and you literally have like the frame, you have the truck. This is not like, oh, I bought axles and then I have everything I need and then you realize you need parts. If you literally have a rolling chassis from start to finish, it's like 5-6 hours to get it done. And that's assuming that's after you like drilled out all the rivets on the mounting plates and all that kind of stuff. But like, as far as like getting the axle from one to the other one, that's it. Like, you don't have to really buy special parts to make one work to the other. As long as you have all the parts from one, they go on to the other one. Because they use the same frame, literally the same frame. So one other thing to consider too, if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to coil swap the front axle, that's totally fine. You can do that. 1, make sure your gear ratios match. And 2, just so you know, the front axle on the coil swap trucks, it's going to have about a 3-inch wider track width than the rear. So either start running wheel spacers in the back to get that equal, or swap the rear axle. And personally, I like the idea of swapping the rear axle, especially if you do happen to find one from an 08 or up, from 11 and up, because those you can find with an electronic factory rear locker, which is pretty fucking cool in my opinion. Having a locker on a switch, and it's a Ford factory part, sick.
Sick.
Super sicky nar.
Yeah.
But as far as if you are not wanting to really get into a coil swap option, to make it ride better, step 1, get some just regular Super Duty leaf springs on the front. I literally have Dorman leaf springs in my front right now. They work great. I'm running some blown out fucking shocks. It still works. Okay. But the biggest thing is getting that front end up just a little bit. Don't do the shackle drop on there, or like the leveling shackle. I did that. Those springs, they're just too soft. It's going to feel like it works. It doesn't. Just get a new leaf spring for it. If you are trying to get a leaf sprung excursion to ride really well, the best riding excursion with leaf springs, the kit is from Carly. It is not cheap.
No.
It is, I reiterate, not cheap. You're going to spend $7,000.
And I'm going to say too, it's still leaf sprung at this point. Okay.
So my first excursion, I did a Carly kit on there. Shout out to Carly. It's a fucking badass kit. You run King 2.5s, Devers front and back. You can clear 35s with no trimming whatsoever.
It rides awesome.
I ran 37s.
4 leaf springs.
Yes. And I'm going to reiterate that here too. But like everyone that rode in that thing were like, holy shit, this thing bangs. 4 leaf sprung truck.
Yeah.
It rides really well for a leaf spring truck. It is the best riding excursion with leaf springs. And keep in mind, you search your local area and see how cheap you can find a rolling 05 to 07 4-wheel drive truck. Frame only. It's fine. Frame and axles. If you can find one for less than $7,000, I would highly recommend doing that. And you have the tools and the know how to do it.
Because then you could, at that point too, you could then use Carly suspension.
Yes.
For an 05 and up, and get Carly coils in the front and have it ride even better.
Yeah, and have better turning radius, better brakes. And if you have kids, and I'll be honest, my son was still, he's still on car seat, but lifting up a baby in their little seat up into an excursion that's lifted 4.5 inches plus 37s on there, my wife literally could not do it. Yeah. And like, I was literally, if you got bad shoulders, you're fucked, my friend. Like I'm not a super tall guy. I'm like 6 foot tall. Like me trying to lift my kid up in there, lifting the whole thing literally above, basically, to where the bottom is like right under your nose. Every time you want to get that kid in and out, it gets old real fucking fast. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you this right now, your wife does not care how cool that suspension is. My wife acknowledged it one time.
Yeah.
One time. And it was because
she was drunk.
She was not sober. Okay. Road sodas were a thing. Okay. And I literally I drove over like a
I
fucking.
was just guessing.
No, she was. She already had she had a little day buzz going. But it was So I was when I had my crawler shit on there, my 37-inch MTRs, and I literally drove over a fucking curb, like just a normal curb. I know. Okay, people off road all the time, but I drove over a normal curb. I didn't even slow down. I was probably going like, I don't know, 30 miles an hour. Yeah. Just drove over straight over it. Not like sidestepped into it, just bonk. Yeah. Over, up, over, done. She's like, was that a curb? I'm like, yep. Like a normal curb? Yep. That was cool. Yep. That's what $7,000 will get you, not including tires.
Yeah.
And she kind of looks at me. I'm like, don't worry, I get employee pricing, which is still a lot. Okay. Yeah. And case in point, I don't have that Excursion anymore because I had to sell it so I could buy a house. So think about that. Yeah. If you don't have a house yet,
buy a house
for the love
first.
of God, do not get an Excursion before you buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay. Just pro tip. Next, if you're not wanting to spend a crazy amount of money, but you also do not have the facility to start looking at coil swapping something, if I had to do it all over again, my hands down would be a BDS. They make a 4-inch kit. Now I know I just said 4.5-inch, but here's the thing. Whenever you see, like, BDS makes that same kit, basically that same part number, but it's 2-inch for Super Duty because
they sit lower.
Excursions sit so much lower. So a 4.5-inch will basically put it level with a Super Duty that has a 2-inch lift. So I would do that with like Fox 2.0 shocks and reservoirs all the way around, and like new bushings everywhere, and some like 17s on 35s, 20s on 35s or something like that. And that would all bolt on. You get a track bar drop bracket with it. You get new leaf springs. You get a new track bar if you want. You can get Fox dual steering stabilizers on the front. It's going to ride really nice, again, for a leaf sprung truck, but also it's something you can do in your driveway. You don't have to start cutting off freaking shock mounts or coil buckets from other trucks or anything like that. You don't have to buy a whole extra vehicle. You can just buy the kit and put it on.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You're also probably going to be not very impressed with the brakes on that thing. SSBC makes the best brake conversion for that truck, front and rear. They ain't cheap. You're going to be spending like $900 to $1,000 on the front and probably about $1,000 on the rear. But they do end up being like a three. I can't remember how many pistons they are.
Oh, probably 3. Yeah.
Yeah, because from the factory, it's a 2-piston front, 1-piston rear. So I think it's a 3 or 4 piston in the front, 2 piston in the back, if I recall correctly. But it's a full conversion kit, and that is the best way to get that thing to stop. I don't know if I have anything else to say about Excursions. I feel excursioned out.
One thing maybe you skimmed over it. Mm-hmm. He did talk about transmission.
Okay. These 7.3s had the 4R110 4-speed, so it's a 3-speed with an overdrive. These 6.0s had the 5R110, and some of the late Excursions that were built with the V10 had a 5R110 in it. The final drive ratio on a 5R110 exactly the same as a 4R. Okay, it's they're both 0.71. So you're not going to all of a sudden gain a whole bunch of, or go down a whole bunch of RPM on the freeway. What you do gain is an extra gear, as you're going through the gears, which does help out with applying power. As you can tell, having extra gear splits, these new trucks now have 10 speeds. So typically, if you can add extra gear splits in a transmission that works well, you basically get in your power band and you stay there the entire time. Also, if you do plan on trying to make some power with your 6.0, 5Rs are very stout from the factory. They work really well. Other than that, I mean, a 4R, 5R, if you do a 4R,
fine going down the freeway.
Don't fucking get a gear vendors on your 5 or your 4R. Okay, don't do that. It's not worth it. It's probably going to cost you $5,000 to put that thing on there because you have to get a new drive shaft. And if it's 4-wheel drive, you can't use it in 4-wheel drive. It's just an added system that could be an issue later on. And again, with a family vehicle, the idea is that if you're going on trips, you don't want to have all these super one-off trick parts on there. Yeah. So that if you randomly break down somewhere, you can walk into a freaking O'Reilly's and buy whatever you need.
Yep.
Sponsored by Dorman.
Yeah.
Half my Excursions Dorman, dude. Swear to God.
Yeah. We talked about this with the towing thing because you were.
Mhm.
I was like, Ben, they've towed like that for thousands of years.
For many
And it's
millennia.
fine.
I do fall into that rut as well.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there's lots of parts out there available. There's lots of groups available. I highly suggest you join some excursion groups on Facebook. If I'll respond to your email with the one, I've got a couple that I'm in. I'll be honest, there's probably one that's only worth it. And there's tons of posts on there all the time. But it's a good way to kind of see what other issues people are having, so you can kind of get geared up for it.
Yeah.
That barley juice is fucking hitting tonight.
Yeah.
But I think that's about all I got, man.
That's all I got.
Yeah, excursions are fun. You're gonna like it if you're getting ready to have, or did you say he just had a kid, or he's getting ready to have his first kid? I can't remember.
I pull up the email again.
No, it was new dad.
New
So,
dad. Yeah.
Congratulations on kid one. You will never get. There is no other vehicle that will do what an excursion can do besides an excursion. And if for some reason you are balling out of control to the point you're thinking of common rail swapping an already nice low mileage excursion,
Have someone else do it.
either A, have someone else do it, or dude, go buy yourself like a 2014 like Yukon Denali.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll probably
Because that's
spend,
going to be way nicer.
it's going to be way nicer. You're probably going to spend at, maybe the same amount or less money, and go get yourself, an older Power Stroke to dick around with or something like that. Because I'll tell you right now, at the end of the day, again, and if you listen to this podcast, I've literally had this conversation with my wife, and I know not all wives are the same, but she doesn't care. All right. The fact
we
that
found that out.
there's been only a few times where my wife has been like, yeah, excursion. And it's usually when some other girl asks about the excursion.
Yeah.
Then she's like, oh yeah, I drive it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
an excursion. And they'll ask like, how big is this thing? And
fucking huge.
she only says this answer because this is what I tell people. Like, is this a, like, how big is this thing? I'm like, it's the biggest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, how big is it? It is the biggest.
Yeah.
There is no other SUV this big on the market, and there never will be ever again. This is the biggest SUV you can buy. Period. Truthfully, it's about the length of an extended cab long bed. It's a little bit shorter, but there it is. Yeah. That's going to about wrap this one up. If you have more in-depth questions on excursions, Tyler would really love for you to send them in so we can talk about them more at length and more at in depth. There he is. Yeah. And I'll leave you guys with.
I've been trying to figure out where friggin' Taiwan is.
It's kind of globe. I'll leave you with one story of nickel and diming. This weekend, I went to my washer fluid reservoir was leaking.
It's the February surprise.
February surprise. There's always something in February, guys.
We figured that out.
Yeah, and it started leaking, so I bought a new reservoir and figured it was time anyways before I tore into it. And again, tearing into it's not that hard. You just take the battery out; it's right there. But I took it out and realized, okay, it's leaking from the pump, not the reservoir itself. Went down to Rise, picked up a Dorman pump. Put that in with my Dorman freaking washer fluid reservoir.
Yeah.
And I knew that my rear windshield wiper, because the washer fluid comes from the front, has a hose going all the way to the back. I knew the hose got disconnected somewhere because A, it's not getting any fluid back there, and B, when I do it, I can see it basically dropping on the ground right in front of the passenger side door, but it's not coming in the cab. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll try trace down the hose and try and figure out. So I get the washer reservoir in there, and the hose follows my fender liner and then disappears, but I see it underneath again. I can't see where it's leaking from. Cannot see for the life of me. Oh, cool. I'll just pull my inner fender liner out. Okay. I don't know if you guys ever pulled the inner fender liner out on these 9904 Power Strokes, but it's a fucking bitch and a half. Those things are like a 1/4 inch thick. Thank you, Ford, for making a really nice fender liner, but how the hell do you get that thing out of there? I took every single push pin, every single bolt I could find out, and still legit could not get it out. But as I'm pulling it out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the wheel off so I can get more access to all these nuts and bolts. So I do like any other good guy does. And when I take the wheel off, I inspect my brakes real quick.
Yeah.
And I spin the tire. And because these have manual locking hubs, I want to make sure that I'm not spinning my half shaft going into my front axle because they're unlocked. I spin it and spinning the shaft going into my differential. Huh. maybe I didn't unlock them. So I unlock, double check, spin. They're still, and I'm trying to get my hand in there on the lugs and the U-joint to like break it loose and see, and they're not coming loose. So I pull and I'm thinking, okay, my hub must be stuck. My selector must be stuck. I pull the selector out, spins freely. Spins just like I lubed it up last time. Super smooth. I'm like, fuck, what's going on here, boys? So then I shove a pry bar in there. And again, there's no like excessive play or anything like that because these things are known for unit bearings going out. No excessive play. So I shove a pry bar in there and I start trying to grab the lugs and start cranking it over. And like, it takes up some slack and it just goes, oh no. And it's like Sunday afternoon. I'm like, fuck no, I can't do this right now. We just had to make it through winter. Yeah. Like, why did I check this?
February surprise.
And it's spinning freely. Like, it's not pulling to one side or anything. I'm just spinning the shaft inside there. I'm like, well, fuck, the needle bearings on the inside of my unit bearing are fucking toast. Hopefully I didn't score up my half shaft too much because at the beginning of winter it was fine. This wasn't an issue, but now it is. So I'm like, shit. So I slammed it all back together. I'm like, I can't finish this right now. Like, it's literally, it did the thing I wasn't supposed to do.
Back pocket, little problem.
I torqued it down, take it for a quick test drive, hit a couple of like driveways sideways to make sure it was like, okay, one wheel's not going to fall off or anything like that. Okay, I'm just spinning a shaft when I don't need to. So shout out to Kryptonite. I did order some lifetime unit bearings from them. I greatly appreciate that. The only downside is, and this is not their fault, but earlier excursions, mine is an 01. Some of them do have coarse threaded studs, which mine is. However, the unit bearings only come with fine threaded, so I had to go buy wheel studs, and I'll just pound those out and put new ones in. And you bet your ass I got Dorman wheel studs.
Onions of deception.
Onions of deception. If you're not watching our shop episodes that come out every Tuesday on the YouTube channel, you got to check it out because it's just... Onion of deception. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, you start peeling those layers back.
Yeah, it makes it cry every time.
Yeah.
Here are the boys. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, guys. About time for us to go live because it's about 5 p.m. here when we're doing this again. We film these on Wednesdays and we go live right on 5 p.m. on Wednesdays. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that answers all of your excursion questions. If you have more, send them in. Or if you end up buying one, or if you have a couple listings, email them to me. I'm happy to look at them for you and give you a seasoned eye on what's going on. Tyler, tell me how much you love excursions.
Is it Thailand or Thailand?
Perfect. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at dieselpowerproducts.com.